Hey there, pretty lady. I heard you wanted to learn how to expose to the right, or as we in the biz call it, ETTR. I don't even think I'm in the biz, but I'm still going to teach you how to expose to the right. This topic is a little bit controversial, okay, because Mr. Patrick O'Sullivan, also known as the Wandering DP, has said, shoot it how you want it to look, so that the color grade, the colorist can't screw it up. And that's totally true, 100% true. But he's also a big proponent of knowing your gear and how it performs. So why do I bring this up? He shoots on ARI, and let's be honest, we do not. We are plebs. The closest thing I have to an ARI is my red. Mirrorless cameras, sometimes they just don't have the kind of juice that a camera like an ARI or a red has to get them butter shadows, just them clean, nice shadows that we can further destroy with dehancer. We just chuck some grain into them dang shadows. If you're interested in dehancer, by the way, you can use code for 10% off your order. So check it out. I use dehancer to grade pretty much all my videos, so they're great. I love them. Anyway, we're talking about exposing to the right. It's one of the greatest ways from keeping your shadows from turning into a wheat field because of the grain. That's a thing. How does overexposing your shot clean up your shadows? I'm gonna paint you a picture, okay? This is how exposing to the right works. This is your noise floor, my left hand right here. It'll be to your right. And this is your image, okay? Normally, it sits right about here. When you use your aperture or your shutter speed, or add more light, or use a second base ISO, you raise, if you use a second base ISO, it'll raise your noise floor a little bit too, but you also raise your image above the noise floor. So let's say you want to expose to the right. Your image is sitting a little bit above the noise floor, but you got some messy shadows down here. So what you want to do is you want to bring your footage away from the noise floor. So you would open your aperture a little bit wider. Looky there, we've raised it above the noise floor. Let's say you don't want to use shutter speed because you want to stick to the 180-degree rule. Totally fine. I do that. That's the way I shoot. So I almost never touch my shutter speed or my shutter angle. So I open my aperture wider or get rid of my ND, or you're going to add more light to your scene, and that will further raise above the noise floor. So once you have this image, you're like, wait, but the skin my characters are blown out. What am I going to do? Then you take it into post. DaVinci, it works the best in. I found not as good of results in Premiere Pro when I'm grading, but I haven't used it in a while. So take it in DaVinci, and if you drop the HDR global wheel, one stop. Oh, what happened? Where'd the noise floor go? It's gone. It doesn't exist anymore. You sent it to an early grave. The wheat field is no more. So basically, you're separating your subject from the noise floor, and you have to do that with adding light or increasing the light that hits your sensor. You can't do it with ISO. So that's how exposing to the right works. I hope my image with my hands helped you figure out why that works. So we see the benefit. Now, how do we do it? This is where I personally used to mess up. I used to just crank my ISO, but the problem is when you crank your ISO, you raise your noise floor too. So it's not actually giving you a cleaner image. You're gonna have to bring it down in post anyway, and your noise floor is just gonna be at the same place. So the only way to properly expose to the right is using your aperture or your shutter speed, even though I prefer not to because it's 180-degree rule, or adding more physical light to the scene. That's my favorite way to do it. It's just great. That way, if you physically add more light to the scene, it gives you more creative options with your aperture. So that's the way I would prefer to do it, but it does work by opening your aperture if you need to. So I'm going to show you guys how to do it with your aperture. So let's cut over to that place where I'm teaching you.
Okay, so as you can see, I have the zebras on. The zebras are going to be a key part of this. You could also use false color on an external monitor, but you need to know what middle gray is at. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we want to decide what aperture that we want to shoot at. In this case, I want to shoot at f1.8. So if we decide on what aperture we want to shoot at, we're going to go up one stop. And on most mirrorless cameras, that's 3 adjustments. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3. and that'll be a stop over. Once you're a stop over, you want to make sure your gray card or your skin tones, whatever your zebras are actually metering for, you're going to want to make sure that those are showing on one stop above your desired aperture. Once you get those zebras to show up, showing that you're perfectly exposed at middle gray or for whatever skin tones you want to do, you're going to open it back up 3 little clicks. 1, 2, 3. So then you'll be one stop over middle gray or one stop over your skin tones, whatever you're exposing for there. So use the zebras or use false colors, and that's gonna just be able to help you find middle gray or where you usually put your skin tones. And then you'll just open your aperture up. So hopefully that made sense. You can also do this with shutter speed, but I'm in shutter angle right now. It's literally the same thing. You would just slow your shutter down by 3 clicks to get your desired shutter speeds. But you could run a really slow shutter just to get your exposure, and then you could do 3 clicks back to your desired shutter speed. If you're one stop under on your aperture here and you're not having enough light to get the zebras to appear, then you're gonna have to boost the amount of light that you've got going on, or you're gonna have to maybe remove some ND if you have any ND, but that's how you're gonna do that with aperture. I hope that helped to be able to physically see it with the gray card. Like I said, you can also do this with skin tones, but whatever camera you're using, go to your official camera's website to see what they recommend you set for your middle gray. Nikon, their recommended is 95 with a range of 5, but I know Sony's and Lumix, they're all different the way they interpret those zebras. So just make sure you double check and get the right thing there, and you should be good. So pretty simple.
If you got the hang of how to do it with your aperture, now I'm going to show you how to do it with this little guy. It's a light meter. You can get cheaper ones. This one's kind of expensive. I have like a $100 one that I got that links to my phone too, and that will help. But here's how we would do it with a light meter.
So this is how we're going to do it with a light meter. So this thing makes everything so much easier. If you don't have one of these, I highly recommend one if you're interested in getting into lighting and stuff like that. So if we want to expose to the right, now let's talk about using a light meter. This is my favorite way to do it because it makes me feel all cinematographer-y, because it's sick, you know? I got a cool little light meter. You can pick these up used on eBay for a pretty good price, one of the ones with the physical buttons. You can also get some cheaper ones that like connect to your phone, but basically all you need to do with a light meter to overexpose is take into account the shutter your camera is shooting at. Right here we have it set to f2 to make it easy to do exactly one stop. So we've chosen f2 on the camera, which means we want our light to read at f2.8. So that basically means an f2.8 would be perfect exposure. One stop above f2.8 is f2. So we're gonna take our light meter, we're gonna read, we get an f2.8 exactly. That's exactly what we want. We want f2.8, that's one stop over. So if we're not getting f2.8, like let's say, we'll bump our key up like crazy. So we take a reading and it says f4, almost f5.6. We know, okay, we're way more than one stop over right now, so we're gonna wanna dim the light down or throw on some ND in front of the lens there. So we'll bring our light back down, and I forgot what number it was at, so we just kind of take some readings until we get to, let's see, that was about f2.8 and a half. So we bring our key light down until it says about 2.8. So f2 is gonna be one stop brighter than f2.8. And also take into account when you're using a light meter that this is not reflecting creative choices. So if you're shooting a night scene and you want the skin tones to lie a little bit lower, then you're probably gonna wanna take into account that you'll expose a stop under what would be perfect exposure. So just keep that in mind when you're using a light meter, is that this will give you your perfect exposure, but it also doesn't take into account your creative choices. So hopefully that explanation helped.
But hey, listen, sometimes we're running and gunning like someone just stole our freaking gordita from the Taco Bell drive-thru. So how do we do these quick shoots where we don't have a lot of access to lighting and it changes and stuff like that? Well, we're gonna eyeball it. Kind of. Grab yourself an external monitor, chunk that baby in, plug it into your HDMI, go to where you can add LUTs to the monitor, and add yourself an overexposure LUT. So I have links to some of those overexposure LUTs. I have one for Nikon, Sony, and Lumix. Those are the cameras that I have access to. Those are the ones that I could help make. So go ahead, go down there, download those for free. I am not going to ask you to sign up for an email list or pay for them or anything. Just if you guys want to use them, you can have them. These are what I usually use when I'm overexposing. If you want to know how to make your own overexposure LUT, let me know in the comments. I can do a tutorial on that. It's pretty simple. But yeah, let me know in the comments and we can put together a video on that. So what do we do once we get the footage inside DaVinci Resolve? How do we lower the exposure exactly one stop? So you actually have a little more creative freedom when you're doing this because it doesn't have to be exactly one stop lowered. You can kind of play around with it and get creative. But if you want to lower it exactly one stop, we're going to go down to our HDR wheels here. And then in our global wheel, that's where we're going to drop it -1 stop. But when I just use the global wheel with no other settings though, sometimes weird things can happen. So I like to go to these 3 dots right here, and then I go to my color space, and then I choose the color space that I shot in. We were shooting an N-Log, so that's going to be Rec 2020 color space. If you were shooting on, say, a Sony, then you were going to probably click Sony S-Cam at 3.cine if that's the color space that you're in. Then you're going to pick your gamma. We're picking Nikon N-Log because, like I said, we shot it in N-Log. And that's just going to tell the HDR wheels what color space and gamma we're actually working with, so it can be more accurate when we make our adjustments. So then you're going to go down on your global wheel. You're just going to drop it down to -1, and that's going to get you right around perfect exposure where you wanted it. So when we turn that on and off, you can see we're keeping all of the detail. We're not clipping anything here. And when we do this, we're dropping the noise floor down further, which is the whole point of exposing to the right. We are bringing our image higher than the noise floor, and then we're dropping both back down so the noise floor is further separated from the image. So you can see here, it's looking nice and clean. And that is how you bring it down in post. This is going to work for any camera system that you have. If you overexpose your image, you're bringing it away from the noise floor. So it's just how science works. So it's going to work for your camera. The thing you want to be careful of is protecting your highlights. That's the only thing that I would recommend watching out for when you're overexposing or exposing to the right. Anyway, I appreciate you guys for watching. Thank you so much. Leave a subscription if this helped you. Leave a like, leave a comment. Let me know how you guys are doing, what kind of content you want to see. If you don't subscribe, I'm going to tell your mom that you've been watching YouTube all day. So that means you're going to need some motivation to go out and shoot, which coincidentally, I would say that I made a video that would help motivate you. So you can find that somewhere around here. One of these links, maybe in the description. Who knows? It'll pop up somewhere. Just go click on that thing. You know what I'm saying? Thanks for watching.